We are going to be talking about what is what has been the impact of COVID in retail and specifically in store systems. We're going to be covering some of the findings that we've done with our customer survey. We'll go through the process of prioritization for projects in this time, and some of the practical ways in which retailers are adapting to this crisis and changing their POS implementations. So the impact of this global pandemic in retail cannot really be understated. We have all been impacted personally, and clearly when it comes to retail, the impact has been tremendous. Immediately, there's been a lockdown to most of the non-essential retail in stores, and really, given that there is no vaccine and there's no effective treatment at the moment, predictions on the outlook of next phases and so on are difficult, and clearly that's not the focus of this webinar. What we are really trying to focus on is about what are the specific things that can be done in the context of lockdown and transition to a new normal for the retail operation of the stores and omnichannel, and how to go about the execution of those projects in the immediate term and also in the short term. So the impact to retail, again, it was immediate. The reaction to a new set of fault lines in terms of whether retailers fell into essential retail category or non-essential, and then the impact, very different impact, whether the channel was online or was physical, and that reaction was really clear for consumers across the different countries right away, where non-essential retail saw a very significant decrease in performance. The products that immediately were impacted in a positive way, I think some of them were quite predictable, and had we been told about them before March, we would have guessed many of them right. But some were also a bit surprising. And maybe it was harder to anticipate that everybody was going to become a baker, for example, or that toilet paper was going to be the first thing in everybody's mind on the initial shopping rounds. But overall, the increase of these product lines has seen, as the lockdown continues, not been as dramatic as it was initially, and is returning slowly to normality. The negative impact as well was felt immediately, but the negative impact on this line is probably more long term, and the effects of it not so much an immediate reaction, but the reality that some of these items will not be things that will be in the consumer's mind in the short and medium term. I think again, in this list probably there's more things that we would have naturally anticipated. As the lockdown continues, the long-term impact, the damage that it does clearly to retail increases. The change in behavior for consumers increases, and clearly we don't know ultimately what that change in behavior will look like. But if consumers are asked today, clearly there's a sense that visits to physical stores are going to be impacted for non-grocery, and particularly visits to the mall, to shopping centers are going to be significantly impacted. And this is dependent on the country and the country's ability in terms of the response to this crisis, how testing is being done, how contact tracing is working, impacts their view as to how cautious they should be moving forward. And then clearly, when it comes to consumer spending, there is a correlation between the length of the lockdown, the impact to the country that the consumer is in, and their perspective on their behavior from a spending perspective. Many of the countries that make the bulk of the retail industry are very heavily impacted, and there are certainly some exceptions, but this is interesting because it correlates quite well with, again, the scale of the pandemic in individual countries in terms of what is the expectation of consumers. A country like Portugal that has dealt with the infection very well has a much better perspective of recovery of consumer spending than a country like Spain or Italy, which have had much more significant issues in relation to this crisis. So the initial reaction from a store system perspective from retailers has been in many cases to put the strategic projects on hold across the portfolio, waiting for this clarity to arrive. And from the point of view of the technology vendors, many times what we've seen is that they continue to put forward maybe things that were putting forward before, but that perhaps with the crisis they see that there's a renewed opportunity in areas like contactless payments, self-checkout, virtual reality, augmented reality, automation, whether it's drones, robotics, further introduction of RFID, and automated service for powered AI. So if you look at the technology vendors, they don't necessarily give you a sense of what it changed, what are the priority change. Maybe there is a double down on the things that they were already selling. So the question really is, what are the retailers actually doing during this lockdown? What are the activities that are taking place while maybe many of their stores are closed and their e-commerce channels are going through unprecedented volume of orders, or if not unprecedented, definitely very different in terms of what normal operation is.